Hey YouTube, today's tutorial is a geeky one. If you want to develop GSAP in Webflow, this advanced technique will save you tons of time. This tutorial is a first in a series covering a lot of GSAP and other experimental techniques. So I hope you like and subscribe and stay tuned. Yeah, I'll have tons more to come. I will be showing you today how to set up a local development environment for GSAP and Webflow using Visual Studio Code, GitHub, so you could track your custom code versions, installing GSAP, and host your custom codes to Netlify when you are ready to deploy your project. Before the tutorial, I want to give my props to Tambien. I think that's how you pronounce it, Tambien. They have a great Webflow resource. They do a lot of amazing tutorials. You should totally check them out and like them and subscribe. And the one I was inspired was from this particular post, Webflow tips importing custom code into Webflow. And his technique I was quite blown away by. And I think this is a great way to using local development with your Visual Studio Code. If you feel comfortable in using this type of tools, this is a really great method of doing so. But I'm going to take one step a little further, catering more towards GSAP, and I will show you from Tambien's technique, and on top of adding how to install GSAP and running it, combining with Webflow. So let's do it. Okay, first up, we need to come to this GitHub page created by Ahmad Saleh, and we need to clone this repo so that we could download it to develop on our local machine. So you want to click on this use this template button. Oh, by the way, this link to this repo will be down in the description. So click on the use this template and create your let's say GSAP develop. Yeah, that's good, I guess. And then this is optional. You can pick whatever. I just do it private for now. Save. Great. Now we have it in our, I have it in my GitHub page, which is Sagameister. And of course, you need to set up your own GitHub account. It's all free. And once you do that, and this step should be obtainable. Next, we want to open this up, clicking on the green button, open it up in GitHub desktop. So if you click it and just hit clone, so we want to clone it to our desktop. And this software is called GitHub Desktop, and you could actually download it. It's for free again, and I'll leave the link down below in the description. It's called GitHub Desktop. So once you install it, you should be able to open it up here, and you have this option here, open in Visual Studio Code. So if you click it, it'll give you the codes right inside your Visual Studio Code. Okay, we're not quite ready to code as of yet. We still need to do a few more things. And this would be a one-time deal. So you need to install Node.js in order for you to use terminal so that you could run a local server and you could develop things locally and without refreshing. Once you save your custom codes, it auto refreshes in the browser, and that requires to run some sort of a server. So in order for all this magic to happen, you need a Node.js, and this would be a one-time install. And if you have Windows, Mac, etc., pick the appropriate download. And once you download it, just install it in your computer. Okay, now we're ready to install the dependencies so that we could run the server and to develop. Okay, so let's open up a terminal. A little shortcut key in the Visual Studio Code is Control, Shift, and the tilde key, and it'll open up the terminal. Okay, so here let's type in npm I. This will download the Node module. Okay, so it's already done. And as you can see, all of the dependencies are now at our disposal. But don't worry, you don't have to open up any of those things. It's just there to assist us when we run the local server. Okay, now we need to run the server by giving the command npm run dev. Okay, and we have this URL. So let's go to a browser, open and put that URL in there. Okay, so when you see this, that means the server is running. Okay, now we got the server running. So how do we communicate with our local environment to the Webflow server? Okay, it's quite easy. First thing you want to do is go back to GitHub's page from Aman Saleh repository, scroll down to how to use with Webflow, and if you speak French, go for it, but I speak English, so I'm going to click on the English side, scroll down to about this area, let's grab this, oops, copy, and come to Webflow again, and let's paste that in to the closing body tag, before body tag, and let's save it and publish. Okay, now let's check the front end. Okay, so as you can see, it's picking up from a local JS file. Now if you inspect the page, you will see on the console right here it says welcome to Vite.js plus Webflow. So to prove that it is connected, you saw it with the button that's coming in from the JS file from a local environment. And let's go back to here on the main JS. As you can see, console log, welcome to Vite plus JS Webflow. So that's exactly what we see here. So that means they're talking with each other, which is a great thing. And whatever we code here in the main JS file will be applied to all of the elements that we want to animate using GSAP. Okay, now we're ready to install GSAP into our development. Okay, but before we do that, let's commit our version here. So let's just do this, call it initial commit. So later in the future, if you want to roll back, we could always come back to the initial committed version. So commit to main and push origin. Done. Now the code gets pushed up into GitHub repository where we set up. It's going to get updated as well, and we could always roll back whenever you want. Okay, and you could also branch into different version, explore, but that's for another tutorial. Okay, so let's go back to Visual Code. Here we will now install GSAP, but the server is still running. To install GSAP, we need to stop the server by hitting Control C. Okay, now we're back to square one, so to speak, and we want to npm install GSAP. There, and install the package for GSAP. Now, to develop, we want to run the server again. So how do we do that? npm run dev. And we got the local host environment. Now the server is running. Again, it's communicating with the Webflow server. And with the main.js, now we could create a GSAP codes. So we could delete out whatever that was there. So we want to import GSAP from GSAP. Save. And here, don't worry about this problem because we didn't assign any GSAP yet. It's undefined. It's not defined because we haven't assigned anything to the elements on the front end. So let's do that right now. Let's put in some animation to one of the elements. In our case, would be that bike class, GSAP.to. I'll explain this in later videos about the GSAP animation techniques specifically, but today's tutorial is just about setting up development environment. So the next video, I will start with the basic tweens and scroll trigger, all that good stuff, okay? So, but this is just a test to make sure everything is working. So let's target the bike class, comma, X%, 100%, and let's give it a duration of, so we can see it happening. Let's give it like 3 seconds. Let's save it. Okay, as you can see, that error went away. Okay, now I want to show you why this technique is such a time saver. Watch how cool this is. So I'm going to reduce this window. Okay, and then show you the front end side by side with the code. And this is why I love using this technique. So let's say you do the code editing here and save. Now watch what happens on the right. I didn't even refresh and it does its thing. And normally in Webflow, you would have to do something in the custom code, save it, close that panel, publish it, go to the front end browser, refresh. I mean, you can't work like that. That's quite inefficient. But this method, you code everything in your favorite editor. In my case would be the Visual Code editor. And I put in my code. And this also applies to CSS as well, which is fantastic. If you want to put in some custom CSS, you can do that as well in your Visual Studio Code editor. So basically when you hit save, it automatically plays the animation. Now you're ready to deploy your website, Webflow site, to the public. It is working as long as the server is running locally. But what happens if you close the server? Let's try it. Control C to end the server. Now watch what happens when I save the JS file. I hit Command S to save. Nothing happens here. If I refresh this, nothing happens. So in order to make this run without our local server running, we need the Netlify to host our codes so that when we shut down our local server, this hosting platform, Netlify, it's also free, that will run our script for us so that even if we shut down the local development environment, the front end will always work. So I'll show you how to do that now. Before we go further, let's commit what we've done thus far. Save this version. Okay, so for this one, say we installed, or I should say, install GSAP. Commit, and let's push. So now we're synchronized in the GitHub area, safely backed up. Now let's go back to our environment here, go to Netlify. Of course, you could sign up, but when you sign up, make sure you sign up with your GitHub account when you do that. But I already signed up, so I'm going to log in using my GitHub. Okay, and it'll take you to the overview page. And again, like I said, this is for free and it's very generous, free plan. And as you can see, bandwidth is up to 100 gigabytes, which is more than you'll ever need. Okay, so let's add a new site, which is what we are working on. And we had already started our project from the GitHub. So let's import an existing project from GitHub. And it will show us all the project. I think I called it GSAP develop. Let's click it and click on deploy site. Let's go to domain settings. Okay, right now this is our domain, so we want to edit the site name. And we want to say GSAP development. You can name it whatever you want. So I save it. Okay, now this is our URL. Okay, now we are ready to apply this URL into our Webflow so that we could run it when the server is not running. So we go back to Webflow and go back to the custom code area and look for this area and just from here you wanna copy this URL and go back to Webflow and just replace it right there. You want to include the HTTPS actually. And make sure everything looks good. Yep, the / is there. And main.js, that's the file that we are working on this side. Okay, let's save it and publish. So this is as if, when you're ready to deploy. Okay, let's close it out and check out on the front end. If you refresh it, we should see an animation. Yep, there you go. Yeah, thanks for sticking around. That was a pretty long tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you find this useful. So from this point on, I'm going to be tackling the fun stuff, which is all the GSAP, like tweening, basic tweening to scroll triggers, timeline animations, and things like that. So yeah, so I hope you come back and subscribe and like. Thank you so much and have a great day.